But let's move on now. Also in the US, Kamala Harris, she's still around. She's writing a book. Will anyone read it? Maybe just rage bait? I don't know. But a leaked excerpt from her memoir shows that she now concedes that perhaps running senile Joe Biden for president wasn't the best idea. I'm glad she's finally realised this. In the book, she said, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that, like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotised. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision." Weren't you there? Weren't you the vice president? Weren't you one of the few people that were actually in the White House when he refused to have meetings with anybody else? You would have been there. You knew what he was like. Hindsight is 2020. That is no excuse. You were complicit in this entire thing, and only now that it has completely blown up in your face, you're going, I think it was reckless, actually. Duh. I'm glad you finally believe that.
Yeah, I think that the saddest part about this is that we are about to be burdened once again by what has been, and we're going to turn the page. And this is not just going to be a small word salad. This is a whole memoir now of word salads. Now, firstly, I like that she's called it 107 days because, of course, she was the shortest presidential candidate in history, only lasting 107 days. But, you know, I love it now the Democrats are absolutely falling over themselves. They hid Joe Biden's illness for so long, including the media over there, of course, the liberal media. This man was fumbling, stumbling, mumbling, bumbling, doing all sorts of weird things on camera. The guy could barely talk, he could barely stand straight, and they all just sat idly by, Kamala Harris, Dr. Jill, the health and medical team, the liberal media, and they let this go on. In fact, it got to the point where it was utterly cruel to see this man on the world stage. And when was it revealed? Of course, at the very first presidential debate. That was when the whole world could see all the lies and all the cover-ups for themselves. So Kamala, please spare us your nonsense. Spare us your rubbish. I, for one, will not be reading this memoir. Caleb, I have no interest in rehashing this, though I wonder whether she's doing it because she wants to run again eventually in the future. This is her big push to rerun for president.
And that may well be true. I'll probably read it because I do enjoy some light entertainment when I go home at night from the studio. You know, and I might need a bottle of red to get me through it. But anyway, I'll do it for you so you don't have to do it yourself. I'm going to give her a little more credit than both of you here.
Oh.
And only because I think she would have seen a long time ago what was wrong with Biden, and she may have been complicit in the cover-up to some degree, but I think she thought that there would come a point where the party would eventually say, we've got to move him on so Harris can run for president. And when it became clear that that was not going to happen, she got really antsy. And by the time she could finally get her mitts on the nomination, it was too late. She didn't have a proper run-up into the election and it was all done and dusted. There was no way she had a chance. I think what she's really angry about is the fact that they didn't just say 6 months before the election or even earlier, it's time to move Joe Biden on and we'll have some primaries and Kamala will finally get her chance.
But she was weak from the beginning, though. She was never going to win in a primary either because she's such a weak performer.
But that's the thing. She probably knew the only way she would get the nomination was if he literally dropped dead. And that's why she didn't put up a fight, because the longer he stayed in there, the higher the chances they would be forced to replace him at the last minute, and that would be the only way she would get the Democrat nominee position for president. And I guess it worked in the end, but a little too late.
Yeah, clearly very too late. It's just such a shame we are about to be burdened by what has been, because I'm sure she's going to do a whole media and press tour. She'll be all on the lefty channels over there on radio, and we're going to hear all about it. So do stay tuned.